I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm just a girl who likes to read about smut. She was so annoying. She was just such a bitch, whatever. Personally, I think we should let characters be bitches. It's a shitty book. I really don't recommend anybody reading it, period. I don't know. And then this book is getting a second book. I'm not reading that shit. I'm so lucky that I love you guys and I really want to film this video because my ring light, dead ass, just fell on my head. Hi guys, my name is Mayana and welcome to Mayo Core. Today I'm going to be talking about books that disappointed me, but specifically my anticipated releases that disappointed me, because if I talk about books that disappointed me, I will be here all day. Not gonna lie, a lot of my readings are pretty much 3-star reads. My Goodreads rating per average is 3.3. So I'm disappointed very often. But I said, let me spice it up a little bit. Let's talk about my anticipated releases that disappointed me, because low-key, all of my anticipated releases disappointed the shit out of me. So let's just get into this, okay? So the first book on this list is Love on the Brain, and this book I actually got an e-arc from. So I read this book like January, February of last year. I read it really early. I was super excited because I personally love the Love Hypothesis. I know like when the book first came out, like everybody was loving it, and then as time went on, people decided that they actually hate the book. I was one of those people who still loved the book. Like, I didn't care. I was like, I don't care what y'all say, this is a good book. So then when Love on the Brain was like a sneak peek in the Love Hypothesis, I was so excited because I love the Love Hypothesis. I love what Ali Hazelwood was doing, you know, women in STEM. So I was like, yeah, period, this is about to be that book. Girl, Love on the Brain was not that girl. Like, I don't know what it is. Well, I do know what it is. But this book is about this girl, and she runs this like Twitter account for some old ass scientist bitch. I don't know. And she is enemies with this guy, and somehow they end up romance. I don't know. It's literally the exact same book as the Love Hypothesis, if I'm being honest. So a big reason as to why I didn't like the book is I felt like it was too much science. Like, I did say earlier that I like what this author was doing for women in STEM, but I'm not a science major. I'm not a woman in STEM. I don't know what the fuck you're talking about. I'm just a girl who likes to read about smut, okay? I don't know what the fuck is going on. I don't know who the scientist lady is. I have never heard of her. If I wanted to read more science than romance, I would just read a sci-fi novel. I have you know, my sci-fi books. I'm a you know, sci-fi girl. I'm a well-rounded reader. So if I wanted to read sci-fi, I would go there. You know, if I wanted to read science, and like this book was just so science heavy. It was just talking about how important this science woman is and how much the main character liked her and all this stuff. I didn't give a fuck. And then on top of that, when I realized that the main character in this story, Bree, was the best friend to the girl in the Love Hypothesis, I was so confused, because mind you, I love the Love Hypothesis. I do not remember this girl being there in the book, and they were best friends. And then mind you, on top of that, the girl from the first book was not in this book, or if she was, she wasn't that much in it. Not enough for me to remember clearly. So it's just like, and then it's like I read like Under One Roof, which I'm loving the roommate trope. If you guys want to give me like roommate to lover romance recommendations, I will take it. Extra points if it's like black, but I'll take anything. But I'm just saying. So yeah, I read Under One Roof and I was like bored. I was like, this is the exact same thing as Love on the Brain. This is the exact same thing as the Love Hypothesis. And I just realized that she just is writing the same book over and over again. And I mean, that's what you get for trusting an author who writes fan fiction. I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with fan fiction. I write fan fiction. I read fan fiction. I consume a lot of fan fiction. But when all of your books are the exact same book, what does that really say? And then it's like very science heavy. And it's like, I don't care. I don't care. I liked it in the first book. Women in STEM, yay. Now get to the smut. Thank you. Thank you. The next book I have is The Golden Enclaves, and this one hurts me dearly because I actually just finished this one. Right? So this is the third book in the School of Man's trilogy. My favorite question mark. I don't know how I feel about the series. I have to reflect on how I feel about the series as a whole. But for now, I'll just say my favorite series, the first book being Daily Education. When I first read that book, I absolutely fell in love with it. This is the last book in the installment. I'm kind of glad that I didn't like it because I don't like the gold cover. It doesn't really fit the other two books. And I only am going to own the first two books, and I'm just going to treat them as a duology. I'm going to reread those two and never touching the last book. I'm just going to pretend like it does not exist. It was so boring. And I realized what works about this series is Orion and Elle together. And so when this book had like middle book syndrome or like second book syndrome, like, you know, when like the middle of the series or the second book of a trilogy in the series, they have like the characters split up, like either the groups are split up or the two characters split up for like most of the novel, and then they come together and end. Nobody fucking likes that trope. I feel like the only people who done that well is Stranger Things, and that's not a book. Nobody fucking likes that trope, but for some reason every author writes it. I don't know why. Nobody can write that trope well, and so that's what essentially was going on in this book. Like, Elle and Orion were separated in this book because of things that happened in the second book. And not to mention, there was like this weird romance, like she has sex with this guy, and then like the next day she like has sex with Orion, and then like she has sex with the guy again. And I was like, y'all were just like, I don't know what was going on there. That was kind of weird. That was kind of random. And it's like, for me, someone who loves smut, I actually wish that we would have done without it, because like, I don't know, the books didn't really need that, to be honest. I just don't know. It wasn't a good book. It was really boring. Elle didn't feel the same. Personally, I know that like a lot of people like didn't like Elle in the first book. She was so annoying. She was just such a bitch, whatever. Personally, I think we should let characters be bitches. Personally, why does every character have to have character development? Now, Elle in the second book was even great, but she had to have even more character development. And I was like, is this really necessary? Does she really need this? No, she does not. The next book I want to talk about is Book of Night. This book is about this girl named Charlie. I really don't remember what this book's about. It's about this girl, and she lives in this world with like shadows, and it's like a magical fantasy world, and she's a pickpocketer thief, and it's a shitty book. I really don't recommend anybody reading it, period. I don't know. And then this book is getting the second book. I'm not reading that shit. And I just didn't like this book as much as everybody else. It was boring, just like everybody else says. Nothing new, just like everybody else. Like, literally what everybody else is saying about the book. I have yet to see, I think I've seen one person who liked this book. And I don't even know if that was genuine. But yeah, it just was not, it didn't eat, it didn't serve, it wasn't great. The next book is Dragon's Bride. This is by Katie Robert. So I read this one as soon as it came out, and like this one was just okay. I didn't hate it or anything. It was like a 3-star read. It was fine. I was like loving it at first, but I just didn't really feel the romance between the two characters. This book is about this girl who was in this abusive relationship, and she ends up meeting this demon named Azazel, who essentially saves her from this abusive relationship, and in payment she has to marry this dragon, and so she does. And there was like this sex scene that was going on, and I couldn't really figure out how it was working that way, and it was just fine. It was just like, I'm usually the kind of person like, if it's a small book, I'm like, oh yeah, period, I'm about to read this, like this is about to be so good. I'm never like, these books need to be longer, because I understand why they were short. This book definitely could have benefited from being longer. And then the next book I have is the book I was talking about earlier, which is Under One Roof by Ali Hazelwood. This book was about this girl who is roommates with this guy, and it's the story of like how they became roommates and like how they're falling in love. And it's like one of her short stories and like this romance novella that's also based off women in STEM. And it's like, Ali Hazelwood, we get it. How many fucking women in STEM books can you write, especially with the exact same male characters over and over? And then she tried to do something different and make one of them like blonde instead of like brunette. But it's like, I didn't read it, but I'm like, I know he still acts like whatever that guy's name is. What is his name? Whatever the guy from Reylo is, I know he still acts like him. So like Kylo, I know he still acts like Kylo Ren. So what are we doing here? Why are we wasting each other's time? You're writing the same books over and over again. And then after that, the article came out about Ali Hazelwood and how like she doesn't really know like what tropes to write, and she just writes whatever her agent tells her to write. And I'm like, oh, that makes sense to why I'm reading the same book over and over again. And I get it, like what works works, but I'm not the same girl who, I'm not the kind of girl who wants to read the same books over and over again from an author. I would like them to try something new, get out of their, you know, step out of their box. If I want to read the same book over and over again, I would just reread the same story. You know what I'm saying? So Ali Hazelwood just isn't for me. But if you see me reading Ali Hazelwood in the future, mind your business. The next book I have is Girl Forgotten. I did give this book 4 stars, but that is only because I liked half of the story. Like, I really liked half the story. So this book is about this girl. It's set in like the 80s. It's 80s or 90s, but we're gonna say 80s. Set in like the 80s, and it follows this girl, and it follows like her going to prom, and then you get another story about this detective who's figuring out what happened to that girl because she turned up dead. And so she's trying to figure out like what happened to said girl. And I just like, the detective story was just fucking boring. I didn't care about it. The prom girl story 8, like it was such a good story. That's why I gave it 4 stars. But like the detective story was not it. I thought it was very boring. I didn't care. Honestly, if the book had just been about the girl, what happened to prom, and then somebody saw, and then you find out what happens in the end, like written in 3rd person, or like the last chapter was in 3rd person, this would have been a 5-star book. But the detective part was just useless to me, and it took me out of the story a lot. Next book I have is The Burning Girls. This wasn't really like an anticipated release, like oh my gosh, I can't wait for The Burning Girls, like when does this book come out? No, this book was more of a like, I've read from this author before, I didn't really like this author, but I'm gonna see like how I feel about this author. So I can't tell you what this book is about because I don't know, because I DNF'd it, but it sucked and it was boring and I was bored. And that's all I can say, because I don't remember what it was about. Yeah. And the next book I have is The It Girl. This is by Ruth Ware. I gave this 3 stars. I didn't hate it. This one is about like this like boarding school in England, and one of the girls turns up dead. So their friend group kind of like, I don't know, the windows I guess, and it's following years later, and she's trying to figure out like what happened with this case. And I just thought it was fine. It was really long. I listened to this book while I was playing The Sims, which was fun because I have like this I'm a storyline player when I actually do play the game. If I'm not, you know, mostly searching for CC and building my Sims, I'm a story player. So I had like this game that I was playing where it was like I was making them all live in a boarding school, and then I listened to this book and I was like, oh, it kind of fits the vibe because it's like dark academia vibes. Two of my Sims set on fire. I was like, ooh, it's kind of like the mood. So yeah, it was just boring. I didn't care. And then you find out who did it, and you're kind of just like, oh, that's my thing about thrillers. It's like I keep reading thrillers, but it's like I want something that just has me gasping. But I realized when I was watching Knives Out Glass Onion is that with my sister, I was like trying to guess. I was like, oh, maybe this is gonna happen. My sister was like, don't do that, we're not doing that, watching this movie, we're just gonna watch the movie, I don't want to hear shit. And I was like, and I was thinking, and I realized that's my problem, is that when I'm reading a thriller, I'm trying to figure out what happened. And so when I finally get to what happened, it's probably one of the people I've already accused of. And I'm like, well, that's not fun. Like, I just want something, like, I don't know, like, it was always going to be one of them. But I wanted something, like, out of the box, you know? I want something out of the box when it's, like, a group thriller. And a thriller has yet to do that for me. And I can't just not be like, oh, it's this person, because I have nothing but time to think because I'm sitting there reading a book. So I have nothing but time. And it's like, I love being like, yeah, I'm such a smart bitch, like, I figured it out. But it's like, there's no fun in that. And then sometimes I don't even figure out who it is. Sometimes it just happens. But then I'm like, oh, that's still boring. Like the next book I have to talk about, which is One of the Girls. This one is about like, this is the last time I read one of these type of books, to be honest. It's like that one book by Lucy, I want to say Lucy Hale, the author who wrote like the book that everyone loved, was set on an Irish island for a wedding. I fucking hated that book. But this one is about these girls. Someone's getting married. They're on this island for like a bachelorette party. One of them dies. I actually DNF'd this book, I think. I either DNF'd it or didn't. No, I didn't DNF it. Did I? No, I didn't DNF it because that would have been in my DNF video. See, I don't even remember. This book was just boring. It was boring. And I didn't care about who did it, clearly, because I don't even remember finishing the book. So, the last book I have to talk about is American Royalty. I didn't hate this book. I gave it 3 stars, but it was still disappointing because like I was really looking forward to this, but at the same time I kind of knew that I was gonna be like because this book is like essentially like Prince Harry and Princess Meghan. If that's what they are, I'm sorry if that's not what they are. I don't know. I just love them. I don't really know their titles. It's about them, but like if Megan was Megan Thee Stallion, if that makes sense. So she's a rapper and he's a prince, and he wants her to perform at like his dad or uncle's like something, because and then she needs to perform there. I like this story up until a certain point. There was like this thing, it started, okay, he was fetishizing her. Okay, there was a point where like I'm all for a guy being down bad. First of all, he was down bad before they even met, which like okay, but there's a scene where they had just met and she was in his room watching the video, and then he started like self-pleasing, and he was like, the way he was talking about her skin, and I know this is written by a black author, thank God, or it would have been really creepy, but like that's not sexy. Like him fetishizing her, like it was fetishizing, like, and then like him like pleasing himself, because it just came off really creepy. It came off really creepy. Like I get what the author was trying to do, like she wanted to be like so hot and like sexy, but it was not that. So yeah, that's the reason why I gave it 3 stars, because like it just his like obsession with her, like I love Boy Falls First, like his obsession with her became really creepy. And I know this is getting a sequel, and I'm kind of just like, why? I think romance books don't need 2 books. I'm not here for your like whatever plot you have going on. I'm here for your love story. So then once we kind of achieve that, I'm kind of just like, but I'm gonna read it because the cover is beautiful. So, and like I said, I didn't hate this book. I gave it 3 stars, but the whole like self-pleasing scene was very creepy. But yeah, that's it for this video. I hope that you liked it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll be uploading 3 times this week. I think I'll probably try to upload Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I might even upload between then. Who knows? We shall see. But thank you for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I'll see you guys in my next one.